Hi, my name is Jack Wilcox, and today we're going to be taking a look at my personal Lightroom Classic flow from the pictures off of the cameras all the way until they get exported and uploaded to a site such as SmugMug. So we're going to go ahead and get started by just simply taking the card out of the camera. If you've never used a Nikon camera before, or any camera before, they actually take pictures to what we call a media card. A media card can be a compact flash card, it can be an SD card, there's different types. And I'm going to show you the two that you're most likely to be working with if you are on the media team here at Crystal Lake South. So the first type of card, which is going to be the most common, it's going to be on almost all of them. I'm going to say at least 95% of the cameras that we currently have in use are going to take what's called an SD card. This is a pretty standard medium for storing digital media. It kind of always has been since the beginning. So an SD card looks something like this. This is what an SD card looks like. It's a small little card. It's no bigger than, here it is in the palm of my hand. And this stores the actual pictures. The pictures don't get stored on the camera itself. They get stored to a card right here. All the pictures, all the videos, anything that you do on the camera gets stored to this little card right here. Now the other type of card that you might see, but this is going to be pretty rare, this is only on usually flagship or professional bodies, which we only have about one or two of, or some of the really early cameras would use this card, and this is what we call a compact flash card. So this right here is just a SanDisk, it's an Extreme Pro 64 gigabyte card. Advantages of having a compact flash card is usually they can write and read faster, so if you're taking a lot of pictures, they are going to be able to write the data to the card quicker, and you're also going to be able to get larger capacities usually. Nowadays, you can get a SD card at about a terabyte. That's usually where it realistically maxes out. Those are going to be very expensive. The regular consumer cards you're going to get are probably going to be about 256 gigs, where these can easily do 512 gigabytes or more. Again, if you're shooting pictures for Crystal Lake South on the media team, you are not going to need more than, I would say, 32 gigabytes with any of the cameras we have, because that should get you at least 1,500 pictures on all of the bodies. So once we've taken the card out of the camera, and if you've never done that before, it's pretty straightforward. I'm going to be demonstrating right here on my Nikon D810. To take out the card, you're just going to simply take the media door. It's going to say card. I don't know if you can see that. It says card right here. You just push out the door, so I'm taking my hand, putting it on the door and pulling forward towards the screen. And then I let go, and you're going to see this little door flap is going to open up. And then inside there, you're going to see where the cards are. So right here, this is where the SD card is going to be, and then this is where the compact flash card is going to be. Again, if you're working with the, what we just purchased was the Nikon D, I believe it was the D7100s. Those are going to take two SD card slots. I actually have one right here. This is going to be the camera that you are working with. Most likely, if you're working with Nikon, it's going to be the D7000 or 7100 series. And again, doors can open the same way. And you see we have two slots for an SD card. But to take out the SD card, you just simply take this right here. You push into the card, and you're going to see it pop out like that. And then you just pluck it out like that. Close the door, push it like that, and then push in. Pretty straightforward. Again, you might be working with the Nikon D2 XS. We have one of those. You most likely aren't going to be, but that one can be a little confusing, so I'm going to demonstrate right here. This is the Nikon D4S. This is actually my favorite camera body. If you're looking to get a used body, this is my go-to. I really like it. The high ISO performance is great. But anyways, this is not a camera ad. But if you're looking to get one for personal use, I think this is great. It can do 12 frames per second, I believe. I've gotten it to do about 11, but I think it's technically rated for 12 with the shutter anyways. And I just think they're great bodies. They're a little bit heavy, but the pictures that come out of it is fantastic. Not too high in megapixel count, so you can have a lot of pictures on a regular size card. So just open this flap right here. You're going to take this little thing right here. You're going to pull this door back, and you're going to see a little button. You press the button, and then that door is going to pop open. And then you click this gray button right here, and then the compact flash card is going to come out. It's very similar to the way the compact flash card comes out on the D810. But yeah, So once we have done that, we are going to need to use a adapter, which I have right here. You're going to most likely have to use a dongle because laptops and computers don't really come with SD card slots, and most definitely not compact flash slots anymore. So we have to use what's called an adapter. This is a dongle. This is a USB Type-C, so it uses USB. And then on the side here we have an SD card. We have a micro SD card. And then I have one down here which is compact flash, but again, you're most likely not going to be using that. And to connect, all you're going to do is you're just going to take this and you're going to plug it into a USB-C port on your computer. Most computers nowadays have these. It's a pretty standard port, and you're just going to plug it in like that. It's pretty straightforward. So we're going to go ahead and get started by that. I've already plugged in 2 cards into my computer, so I'm going to go ahead and hide my face right here. And now we're going to be taking a look at how we get the files and how I personally sort the files on my system. So what I like to do is I have a folder on an external hard drive on my computer. And this is where all the files get stored. I copy all of the files from the camera cards onto my external hard drive, and then that is how I edit the pictures. I think it works better if you copy it locally onto your computer. That way, if your card accidentally gets unplugged, you don't lose all those pictures. And it's also going to be way faster because I'm working with a solid state drive compared to just an SD card, which means that the picture is going to load faster and everything is just going to be a little bit better to work with. So in order to do this on Windows and Mac, it's going to be pretty straightforward. I'm going to open up File Explorer here. If you're using Mac, you're going to be using Finder, which is going to be essentially the same thing. And then all you need to do is I like to find a folder. I have a folder on my external hard drive, which is where I store my pictures, but you can do it on your desktop if you wanted. I have a folder actually called Media Club. And this picture is where I house all of my events. And this is just my go-to folder. I know if I'm working with something for Media Club, it's always going to be inside of this folder. Every picture I've ever taken for it, all the exported, the Lightroom catalogs, all of that is going to be stored right here. So I'm going to double click on the folder right here. And as you can see, all of my events are in here. Every event I've ever taken for it is sorted by the name of the event and then following the date in a full month, year, or month, day, year format. So I'm just going to be doing a sample volleyball session, okay? So I took pictures at a volleyball game, and that's what we're going to be pretending to edit. I'm not actually going to make you sit through and watch me cull and go through hours and hours of editing time. I don't think that you need to watch that. I'm just going to go through how I flag pictures and kind of my workflow with that. So I'm going to do about 20 pictures. So within my Media Club folder, I will always create a new folder. So on Mac and Windows, it's going to be pretty similar. Right click, go to New, and then click Folder. Now it's going to ask for me for my name. You can just name it baseball, or you can just name it soccer, or you can just name it volleyball, but I don't like to do that. I think that every event should have its own folder, and it should be named something according to that event. I like to do the date so I know it's specific. If somebody says, hey, I need pictures from the volleyball game December 8th, 2023, I need you to pull that up. I know that I can just simply scroll through here until I see December 8th, 2023, and open up the folder. So I'm going to go ahead and name my folder. I'm just going to say I took this volleyball game. I'm just going to say I took it today because I already have edited these pictures and they're already uploaded. So I'm just using the raw pictures. So I'm just going to name it volleyball and then the date. So 10-19-2025. That is today. If you're most likely watching this, it could be, 5, maybe 10 years from now. But today is 10-19-25, and that's when I'm saying I shot the event. So after that, I click Enter, and then that folder's been created within my Media Club folder. Okay, and now I'm going to double click on that folder. So I'm inside of that folder, as you can see right here, and I create 4 folders, sometimes 3, but most likely 4. That means I create a folder for each camera to dump the card to. So all my pictures taken on my Nikon D4S are going to go into a folder. All of the pictures from my Nikon D810 are going to go into a folder. I'm going to create a Lightroom catalog folder, and then I'm going to create an exported folder. So it'll make more sense as I go through it, but I like to do this. I think it's clean. I can navigate to specific camera-specific files should I need to. So right here, I'm going to go right click, new folder, and I'm just going to name it D4S. This is going to be the folder where I copy and paste all of my pictures in that I took with my Nikon D4S. Then we're going to create a new folder called D810. You can do Nikon D810, you can do Nikon, you can do Canon, you can do whatever you want. I just, because I am a Nikon shooter and I always shoot with Nikon, I just think it's easier the way I name it just to be the model number, because sometimes I'm using the D4S with my 24 to 70 and other times I'm using it with my 80 to 200. So it just kind of clears it up. I can't just name it camera 1 and camera 2 because they switch and then I don't know which camera is which. So I just like to do it by D4S and D810 because those are two things that are never going to change. Lenses and stuff will change the way I take the pictures. Like I may use my D4S more than my D810 a specific day or something like that. But yeah, so I just create two folders right here. This is going to be where my cameras are. Sometimes if I'm shooting a larger event, I have, 3 or 4 bodies. So I'd create a new folder. I name it D7000 for my Nikon D7000. I'd create a new folder, call it, Nikon D90 if I'm shooting with a D90, or I'd actually just name it probably D90. And then, it makes it easier. I found it confusing when I would put all the files in one. I didn't like it, so I think that when you should have a specific folder for each camera. And now I'm going to create what's called my catalog folder. When I create a file within Adobe Lightroom Classic, which is the tool we're going to be using to edit our pictures, you've most likely worked with it before if you're in any photography class at South, but if not, it's pretty straightforward aside from a few minor things that can take a little bit of getting used to. But I'm going to create what's called my catalog folder. So when I create a catalog, which is a collection, it's essentially a folder in Lightroom Classic, it's going to create a bunch of files. It's going to be .lrcat. That's going to be the file name. So it's going to be catalog1.lrcat for Lightroom catalog. And then if I just create the catalog in here, it gets all cluttered. So I just like to create a new folder, and I just like to name it LRC. I used to name it LR5 when I was working with Lightroom 5, but Lightroom Classic, that's just what that stands for. For me, you can name it anything you want. You can name it, Lightroom Catalog, but I like to keep it at LRC. And then the final folder I create is exported. I like to create the exported folder beforehand. I'm not sure why, it just seems to be something I normally do, because when I'm working, I usually, I always want to get that exported folder out of the way so I know exactly where to export it. And then you'll see down the line, once we upload the pictures to a site, we're going to actually be doing it through SmugMug. I'm going to rename that exported folder to exported-uploaded. So it's easy for me to see on my own that I have uploaded the pictures and they are somewhere on the internet, most likely on SmugMug. So I'm going to create a new folder here. I'm going to go ahead and click exported. And if you're working with Windows, you can use the Control-Shift-N shortcut to create a new folder. I like to do that all the time. So you just simply hold down Control-Shift and then click the N key. It's going to open up a new folder. So you don't have to go right-click new folder. It's just something that, it's all about shortcuts and hotkeys, I believe it's called. It just makes the workflow a little bit quicker. So now that I have my folders created on my external hard drive, it's time to start actually importing the pictures. So the way I'll do this is I'll open up a new window, new folder. Mac, you're going to click Command on. Windows, you're going to right click here, and you're going to click File Explorer again. Okay, and now when you plug in your USB-C dock and your cards in it, you're going to actually see them show up in your This PC. So down here, if you click This PC, you can see all of the hard drives you have on your computer. So as you can see, I have my local disk, I have an external hard drive, which is this guy down here, and then I have my 2 camera cards. I have my Nikon D4S and my Nikon D90, which is actually my D810. I just haven't renamed the card itself. To rename the card is pretty straightforward. Right click, go to rename. It hasn't bothered me enough. But now that I have this right here, I'm going to see Nikon D4S, so I know that this is the pictures that I took from the game on my Nikon D4S. So I'm going to go ahead and click here. I'm going to go to DSIM. This is going to be where the files are. And then as you can see right here, these are all the pictures that I took at the volleyball game. On Windows, to view them in a bigger square, you can actually preview the pictures before you upload them. you go up here where it says view, you click view, and then you click large icons. As you can see, I've only copy and pasted a couple because this is a fake game that I took pictures of. These pictures are actually from, I believe, a week or two ago. But this is going to be the pictures that I took. It's going to be in my DSIM folder, and now we actually copy over the files. So in order to do this, what we do is we can go ahead and click Control A or Command A if you're on Mac. And then this is going to be all of the files selected. Sometimes I'm working with thousands of them, but right now I'm only working with, I have 38, you can see down here, which is 1.22 gigabytes, which means that that should take pretty quick to transfer. And then I'm going to click Command C or right click and click copy, because remember, I'm trying to get the files off of the card and onto my personal hard drive or my external hard drive, because it makes the workflow faster and it makes the images load quicker. So since I see that I took this on my D4S, I go to DSIM, select all my pictures, and now I go into that folder that I just created, and I see my D4S subfolder for the event, which is volleyball from supposedly today. I double click here on my D4S. So this is a blank folder which is inside the D4S within my event. So the workflow is Media Club folder into the event name, into the camera. Okay. And now that I have it, I can either drag these files over, or I'm just actually going to drag them over. And then you can see copy to D4S. You can also click Control C, Control V. And now I'm going to let this go. And as you can see, it copied over the folders or the files actually instantly because I'm working with very fast hard drives and camera cards. But now I can see that all my files are in here. Now that they're in here, I can go ahead and do that same process with the Nikon D810 pictures. So I'm going to go back to my event folder, and now I'm going to go to my D810. So now I'm on my D810 folder on my hard drive, and I can go back to the SD card that I used to shoot the game with, which is right here, Nikon D90, DSIM, and then it's going to be my 810 folder. Every time you put a card in a camera, it's going to create a new subfolder. Because my D4S was by itself, it didn't create a subfolder because it saw that it was the only camera on the card. So right here I have my D810. Double click here, and then this is going to be all the files. Again, I can go to View, large icons, and this is going to be all the files that I have created, all the pictures that I took from the game. So I'm going to do that same thing, Control A, right click, copy from the SD card, and now I'm going to go to my camera subfolder in my event, and then click Control V to paste them. Okay, I'm going to wait for this to finish, and I'll be back. Alright, so now the files have transferred over successfully into my D810 subfolder. And again, depending on how many pictures you took and the size of each file, this could take upwards of possibly half an hour if you've taken a lot of pictures. For example, if I fill up my 64 gigabyte compact flash card and I'm copying and pasting it, it might take 5 minutes, or it might take a longer amount of time. But it's not going to take too long for me because I took, I'm only saying I took, I think, close to 100 pictures, which is not bad at all. But again, if I'm taking a football game or a full volleyball game, I'd most likely be taking over 1,000 pictures, at least on my D4S, and then the D810 sometimes can be upwards of 100 to 200 pictures. So now that we have both of these camera cards, essentially we've copied over all the pictures from the camera cards onto a folder on my hard drive, I can just simply eject them. So on Mac or Windows, you just can either unplug it, or you can just right click on the card itself and click eject. So now that we have the files transferred over, this is when we get to actually open up Lightroom for the first time. So there's two versions of Lightroom. We're going to be using Lightroom Classic, which is my go-to version of Lightroom. I think it works better for many pictures. So if I'm working with 1,000 pictures, I think it's way better to do it in Lightroom Classic. And there's a lot more features and capabilities than the regular version of Lightroom. Lightroom Classic is essentially the original version of Lightroom, created back in 2007 by the name Photoshop Lightroom. It is essentially the exact same tool from Photoshop Lightroom to this version of Lightroom Classic. It's a little bit confusing, but Lightroom Classic is technically the original version of Lightroom. The other version of Lightroom is kind of a web-based, mobile-oriented tool, which I don't like. I don't think it works as well, and I think it just can be more of a pain to work with. So we can go ahead and, if you have not installed Creative Cloud or Lightroom Classic, you should do that now. I believe on this, somewhere, wherever you click to watch this video, there should be another option that says Install Creative Cloud on Windows or Mac, depending on what you're using. But to do this, we just are going to click the Start menu, and we're going to search for Creative Cloud. If you already have it installed, great. If you don't, go ahead and install it. And then, as you can see, if I go to my apps on my left-hand section, Essential New Plan, these are going to be all the apps I've installed. You can actually see on the right-hand option all the apps installed. I don't have too many installed. I just have Photoshop, Premiere Pro, Lightroom. Not many tools, but to go ahead and install Lightroom Classic, scroll down until you see it. So let's just say it's right here. You're going to click Install right here. You're going to wait for that to finish. And now that we have that, this is when we actually get to open up Lightroom, and this is when the fun editing begins. So this is we get to do one of my favorite parts, which is called culling, C-U-L-L-I-N-G, which is essentially where we look at all the pictures and we flag it, whether we like them or we do not like them. So I'm going to close out of here, and I'm going to go ahead and close out of this, which is just my folder. I don't need that open anymore. And I'm going to go ahead and use my search menu to type in Adobe Lightroom Classic. I'm going to go ahead and click Open or click Enter. And I also have it pinned down here. And this is going to be one of the changes. It's going to automatically open up to something called Lightroom 5 Catalog. I'm going to go ahead and change this. Actually, I apologize. I'm going to reopen it. So we're going to be doing a couple changes I like to do. So I'm just going to open up this random football catalog I took pictures of. This is not what we're going to be using. You're not going to get that screen to select which catalog you want to open. That is something that I changed, which I'm actually going to show you how to change right now. So we're going to wait for just the sample catalog to open. So when you open up Lightroom for the first time, there's me right there. So if I open up Lightroom for the first time, it's going to automatically open up to something called the Lightroom catalog. This is going to be your default catalog that it opens up to every time. When you're working with many different events, you want to have different catalogs for each event. It's best practice, and if you didn't, you would be opening up a catalog sometimes with 10 or 15,000 pictures, which A, is going to bog down your system, and B, it's just going to be a nightmare to sort through, and you don't want to do it. So when you select it to where you have to select a catalog to open up, it actually kind of almost forces you to create a new catalog for your pictures, and it kind of just makes it a little bit easier to do. So to make that change, we're actually going to make our changes. So it's going to automatically open up here to say something like Lightroom 5 catalog or Lightroom catalog, and I don't like that. That's a default catalog that it uses, and I don't like that. I don't think it's a good solution that they have. I think they should do what I'm about to do right here as a default option. So to get to your settings for Lightroom, it's going to be much like any other Adobe application if you've worked with that. So for example, Photoshop, it's going to be the exact same way to do it. So you are going to go to Edit. So up here, you're going to see Edit. If you're on Mac, it's going to be right next to the Apple logo. Edit, and then Preferences. We're going to click Preferences, and it's going to open up this screen right here. It's going to automatically open up to General. I was already messing with it. But it's going to open up to General. And this is I'm going to be doing my favorite changes to do right here. So you can follow along. I think that you should follow along. I think that's the best way to do it because it makes the workflow quicker. And from my experience of editing probably at least 100,000 pictures in Lightroom over my time, this is the best way and quickest, most efficient way to use Lightroom. So what I do right here is in my general settings, language, English. You can also set it to automatic. If you speak a different language, let's say you speak Spanish, You can change it to that. I don't ever do that. I don't speak Spanish. I do, but I'm not fluent, so there'd be no reason for me to do that. But right here, this is my most important thing that I change on every single system that I use Lightroom on, and this is default catalog. It's going to say when starting up, use this catalog. As you can see, it's going to by default load the most recent catalog or try and load just a default catalog. I don't like that. I think that, again, it doesn't make sense because you're just going to get lazy and you're going to just keep importing into the same catalog. It's going to get all cluttered. You're going to have a giant file. You're not going to know where anything is. It's just not good. So I like to always change to prompt me when starting Lightroom. That's going to do what I did when I first opened the application. Is it's going to ask me which catalog to launch. So I can select it and I can create a new one straight from that window without having to reopen the app. So when I click prompt me when starting Lightroom, I'm just going to click that. That's my favorite thing to do. Okay. And then these import options, I think that these are default. I like to deselect show import dialog when a memory card is detected, because that's something that I don't like to do because we've already copied over our folders. We've already copied over our photos to a folder on our hard drive, so there would be no reason why we would need to import it from our memory cards. We would just have to do it through our external hard drive, and that's obviously not going to be detected as a card medium. Select the current previous import collection during import. This is default. Leave these two off. I don't like to treat JPEG files next to RAW files separate. This should be off by default. If it's on, check it off. This can get tedious if you're shooting in RAW and JPEG, but most likely you're just shooting in JPEG. And then I like to do replace embedded previews with standard previews during idle time. This will free up my system a little bit. This is going to just essentially free up some of your CPU and RAM usage if it's open in the background, so it's not always going at 100%. But it's fine. You can do whatever you want. And then I don't have any sound set up for when I import photos, export photos. I don't use that. You can use it. You can click here. There's a couple options. Do whatever you want. If you want a sound, that's great. I've had a sound on before. I just find it unnecessary. But if you're used to Mac, for example, when you install an application on a MacBook or a Mac OS device, it's gonna have like a check mark, and then it's gonna say ding or whatever. So you can do whatever you want. That's just your own option. Presets. This you shouldn't have to change at all. External editing. This one I believe is a little bit different. I've modified this slightly. Photoshop version. It should be default Photoshop 2025 or whatever year it is that you're watching this video in. But one thing that I do like to change is file format. I believe it's going to select TIFF as default. I don't like that. I think working with a PSD or Photoshop document is going to be a little bit better. And we might actually edit a file in Photoshop. I'm not sure yet in this tutorial, but I haven't worked it out. I'm kind of just making it up as I go. So color space, Pro Photo RGB. I like to keep that. You don't want Adobe RGB or Display P3 or sRGB. Those are older color formats that are not widely used anymore. Pro Photo RGB is going to be your main color space as of 2025. Bit depth. Always like to keep it at a higher bit rate, 16 bits per component. Just makes it cleaner, makes it a little bit sharper, a little bit tackier. And then resolution, I believe that this has actually changed. I believe default is either 200 or 270 at the time of recording, but I like to change it to my 300, which is going to be your default for any kind of camera you're going to be using. This is going to be your default what's called PPI or pixels per inch. It essentially means that as you zoom in on the image, it's going to be a little bit tackier, a little bit cleaner, a little bit sharper. Additional external editor. You're not going to be using this because District 155 will provide you with Photoshop. They'll provide you with that tool, so you are not going to have an external editor. If you do have one, it could be GIMP, G-I-M-P. That is essentially a Photoshop knockoff. It doesn't work as well as my opinion. That's probably why it's free and Photoshop isn't. But again, if you're using that, you can go ahead and select it here. I don't like to do that. I don't think I need to. And then file handling. Uh, I don't think I need to change anything here. Oh, file handling. JPEG preview, I always like to change this to full size. I believe it's on medium size by default, but I like to do full size. I think that just makes it a little bit easier to see, and it's a little bit, it's just personal preference because when I'm scrolling through the images, I want to see the full size so I can know if it's blurry, basically just right by looking at it. Okay, interface. This one you shouldn't have to change. You can change your screens. So you see back here where it's gray, you can change it to white. You can change it to black. You can change it to a dark gray, which it's going to be by default. And then nothing, you shouldn't have to change anything here. Performance, graphics processor. This is going to be, you should just leave this on auto, depending on what you're using. I always keep it on auto. And then one thing I do like to change here is camera raw cache settings. So when it creates folders in Lightroom, it's going to create what's called a cache. And a cache is essentially a temporary place for it to store large amounts of data or file that you're going to be accessing frequently. So by default, I believe the size is going to be 5 gigabytes. So it's going to render 5 gigabytes of files that it seems like you're using most often, or what it expects for you to use next. Because I have a lot of space on my computer, I like to change it to 15 gigabytes. That's what I have it set at. You can change it to 30, 50, 100. I don't think you can use 100, but I would definitely change it off of 5 gigabytes if you have a lot of room available storage-wise on your computer. Video, I don't work anything with video, so I don't need to change the cache size for that. 3 gigs is fine because I don't even use it. And then we shouldn't have to change anything here. Lightroom sync, this is just going to be your Adobe ID, your name, and then it's just going to do a bunch of sync preferences. I don't need to do that. Display, this can be where you change your secondary monitor. So for example, I have 2 monitors right here. You can't see the other one because it's got my recording software on it. But that can be where you can view the picture you're editing right here, like you can see back here. That you can see, you're editing on a different monitor. This monitor could be larger, could be smaller, could be more color accurate. That's what a lot of people will do is they'll have, if it's an expensive color grading monitor, they're going to have that be your preview monitor. It's just personal preference again. So now that we have our settings, I'm just simply going to click OK. And now you're most likely going to be in that Lightroom 5 catalog again. So I'm just going to close out of Lightroom. It's going to say, do you really want to quit? Yes. And I'm just going to do that same thing. And hopefully, if you did it right, so I'm going to click Lightroom, it's going to prompt me for my catalog. Now from here, I can go ahead and select the catalog that I want to use. We don't have a catalog, so we're actually going to create one. Okay, so now it's time to create our catalog. To do that, we're going to be brought to this window. Not sure why the icons aren't loading here. That seems to be something weird. But right here, we can choose a different catalog or create a new catalog. This is going to be before we actually launch, before the Lightroom application actually launches, because once it launches, it's going to launch a catalog, and here is where we select the catalog. So I'm going to create a new catalog because we don't have one yet. That is why we created that LRC folder earlier on our external hard drive, or your hard drive could be your desktop back here. So I'm going to click Create a New Catalog, and then I'm going to navigate to that folder. So it's right here. It's in a folder called Media Club. I'm going to navigate to that, and now I can see Volleyball 10/19/25. Double click that, and then I'm going to double click LRC. And now what I like to name my catalog is the exact same thing as what I just named my folder. So my folder within the Media Club is called Volleyball 10/19/2025. So that is what I'm going to do. That's what I'm going to name it. Volleyball space dash 10/19 dash 2025. Okay, this is what I'm going to name it. It makes it easier if I'm trying to launch it from the this window back here, and it just seems to work. If you just name it something like volleyball, that's a little vague. You might not know exactly what it is. So now I'm going to click Create, and then it's going to close out of it, and it's going to relaunch the Adobe Lightroom Classic application. So if you've never used this tool before, it kind of works by, these are kind of the steps that you work with. but because we're just editing pictures, I only usually use the Lightroom Develop and Slideshow tabs. I don't need a map. The map is going to be something that you don't use, kind of has never been used. Print. This is only if you're printing out, and then web, I don't ever use. You can use them. I'm not going to use them for basic editing. You're not going to be using that, especially the map, book, or slideshow or print options. So this is going to be what's called this is going to be the screen that you get when you first open the application. And if you've never worked with it before, it can be a little bit confusing on how to actually get your pictures in, because you don't see anywhere. Where does it say import? How do I add my pictures? Well, to do that, we're actually going to go to what's called our library. This is going to be basically where all of our pictures get sorted into that we decide to import. So we're going to import them into the library, and then from the library we can develop them, which by developing, it's going to be color corrections, exposure, contrast, highlight, shadows, all of that. So this tool was actually designed by a bunch of old men to be like editing, if you're editing a roll of film. So we're going to kind of see some similarities between that, especially with the terminology used and just the way the application is built. So down here we're actually going to see what's called our film strip, which is going to be much like a real film strip from a camera. You take out the 35mm roll, you roll it out, it's going to kind of look like that. All these pictures are going to be down here. Develop, again, it could be edit, could be color correct, could be change, but they're going to choose to be develop because it's like you're using a dark room, hence the name Lightroom, because it's very similar to it. So we're actually going to go to our library right here, and to navigate to that, we just click library. Now we're going to be in the library. You're not going to see a big change. So as you can see, change over here, click library, and then you're going to see it down here. Not a big change. So you want to make sure you're on library, otherwise you're not going to see this dialog here, which is what we're going to want to click. So to import our pictures, we finally get to import them. In order to do this, we have to be library, and then we go down here to the bottom left where it says import. We click import. And now this is going to bring up a panel where we can actually import the pictures. So in order to do this, you might say, hey, my pictures have already been found, but not yet, because these are actually on the camera card. I don't like to do this. You can import them directly and they'll copy over to that folder that we created, the LRC folder, but I think it's better to copy them over first. I've had some issues where Lightroom has crashed from copying it over, and then I end up losing those pictures. So that's why I always like to copy them to a hard drive first, but this dialog prompt is essentially going to do the same thing, but I don't want to do that. So I'm actually just going to minimize this, and I'm going to expand my external hard drive right here. So I'm going to click 6 terabyte, which is the name of my external hard drive. And then I'm going to scroll down to my Media Club folder. And now I'm going to go ahead and click the event, which is volleyball, which is right here. Okay, volleyball 10/19/25, and I'm going to click it. It's going to show me my pictures. Hey, I did a good job guessing. It's actually 100 pictures. And then I just click it, and I don't need to click. I want to make sure I'm including subfolders, because if I don't include subfolders, you can actually see what happens. I believe. Okay, never mind. You want to make sure subfolders are included. I don't remember how to do that, but if there's not, there should be a check mark somewhere where it says include subfolders. That's what I want to do, because remember we created those subfolders, one for D4S and one for D810. But if I click just the top level folder, it's going to include everything in these folders. And if I didn't do that, and I just put all my pictures into one thing, I'm going to show you what happens. Let's say I click my Media Club folder, it's going to go through thousands and thousands and thousands of pictures. Okay, that's not what I want to do, because that's why I like to create subfolders, because you can see it's already found 100 and something thousand pictures. So I'm going to scroll down back to my volleyball picture, or my volleyball page right here, and I'm just going to include these pictures. It makes it easier when there's folders. Trust me, you don't want to just import them everywhere. Things can get confusing. Make a system, make that system early, so you don't have to go scavenging for all this stuff. It just makes it easier. Now you can see I have all these pictures, And to select them all, I just click check all down here. It might look like this, it might be dark, so I just click check all, and now you can see there's a check mark for all of them, and now we get to import. So I'm just going to click import right here. As you can see up here, it's going to say 2 operations in progress. This is where we can monitor what's happening. So it's imported the pictures, so it's already imported them, but now it's going to be doing what's called building previews. Building previews is just, these pictures right here. It's going to, like, as you can see, these down here are blurry, and when I build the preview, it's just going to essentially render it so it fits and looks well on this screen right here. And now we get to do my favorite part, which is culling. So I'm going to wait for these to all build, and then I'll be back. Okay, so the previews did not take too long to build, but once they're built, you're going to see no tasks running up here. And this is going to be, so this is library, so it's much like a film strip. You can change the thumbnail size, so you can change it to show more or less. I usually have it choose about 5. That works better based on the size of the monitor I have right in front of me. It's a 27-inch monitor, and from where I sit from my desk, this seems to be the best size where I can kind of see what's going on, but it's not going to be large. It's not going to be too large, so I can see a lot at a glance. And now actually this is where we begin what I refer to as culling, which culling is essentially where you go through and mark the pictures that are terrible and the pictures that you don't even want to think about editing. So in order to do this, what I like to do is I like to just double click on the first picture. This is what's going to do, it's going to import, or I'm sorry, it's going to preview it in this window right here. And in order to do this, so as you can see, all your pictures are going to be down here. This is what I was talking about as the film strip. So this is our film strip. This is how we can scroll through all of the pictures that we took. Okay, so right here. And in order to actually scroll through the other pictures, you can go ahead and click them one by one. This is just going to show me all the pictures I took that night. Or I can use the arrow keys on my keyboard to navigate through them. Arrow keys for me works easier. So as you can see, I can scroll back and forth between them. And now I'm going to mark them. So I'm going to go through all of the pictures. So as you can see down here, this is how you can see how many pictures you have. I have 100 pictures. So I'm going to scroll through 100 of them, and I'm going to mark the ones that are bad and leave the ones that are good just unmarked. So I know the ones that are definite no are going to get marked. And the way I'm going to mark it is I'm going to go ahead and click X on my keyboard, or I click right here, which says set as rejected, or I right click here, and I believe I can set it also to rejected by going to set flag and then rejected. Okay, so I'm just going to scroll through all these pictures, and then I'm going to click X on the ones that are bad. This is the first stage of it. So I'm going to scroll through. So this picture isn't great, so I'm going to click X on my keyboard, and I'm going to go next. This picture is fine. I'm going to click OK, so I don't do anything. I don't click X, and if I accidentally click X, oh shoot, I clicked X. How do I get rid of that? You can go to right click, set flag, unflagged, or you can just click right here. You can click it, and it's going to show it away. And I'm just going to keep doing that. So this picture is good. This picture isn't. This picture is good. I don't like this one. Her eyes are closed. This one is good. And if I have 2, I can go back and forth. Okay, I think I like the first one better, so this one is going to be rejected. And as you can see on the screen, you're going to get rejected. And I'm just going to keep doing this for all the pictures. Okay, so this picture, I like this picture. I think it's cute how these 2 people are hugging one another. So this is going to be the one I keep. So I'm going to set these 2 to be rejected. And then this picture, not crazy about this one. I like this one a little bit better because she's got a thumbs up. This one is good. I think I like this one better. Okay, so I'm going to keep doing that. And then once I'm done, I'm actually going to delete all the other pictures just for the sake of the video purpose. So I'm going to go ahead and wait for it to delete. Okay, so once I've gone through and I've flagged and unflagged all of them, not sure why it's not removing from catalog. Sorry, this is a quick thing. I just want to remove it from There we go. Okay, so let's say I've gone through all these pictures. I've actually windowed it down to a 15 now. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I have 7 pictures that I'm going to be editing. So because these ones are all terrible and I don't like them. So now to actually get rid of the ones I don't like to delete any pictures. I never like to delete any pictures because, you know, sometimes you accidentally do it, and there's just a lot of things. I like to keep a record of all the pictures I took because I might have to go back and, you know, I might have to scavenge for a picture of, you know, so and so person doing this because it's senior night and I didn't edit a picture of them. That happened to me last year. I was creating a video for the senior night for a high school, Crystal Lake South, and I had to actually go into an old folder of pictures that I had already edited and exported and actually find that specific senior and edit a picture of them. Now, the picture wasn't great because I would have edited it before, but I ended up having to use that one in a presentation. Okay, so now once I'm here, I'm going to go ahead and sort. So this is going to be one of my favorite tools right here, or toolbars. This is going to be sort. This is going to be where you can actually filter your pictures. So I can filter them based on if they're flagged or not, and then how many stars I give it, and if I mark it with a color. So because we were flagging these pictures, and the ones that are not flagged, or the ones that are terrible, have been flagged by rejected, I can simply filter it by the middle one right here. So I'm going to click filter based on flag status, which is going to be anything which is positive or just not rated. So as you can see, when I click that, it's going to remove all these pictures from my toolbar. Now the pictures didn't get deleted, instead they just got hidden. And this is why I like to do this instead of deleting the pictures, because there's a time when you accidentally might do that, and you might accidentally flag a picture that you wanted as rejected, and if you were to just remove them, you might accidentally delete that picture, and you're never going to get that picture back. So now that we have our pictures, so I'm going to scroll through them. Okay, I like all these pictures. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to my develop module. This is going to be the screen where I actually edit the colors and the exposure and all that. So I click develop up here. Okay, and it's going to open up this panel. This panel looks really confusing and really daunting, so I'm going to go starting from left all the way to the right to kind of explain all of the different modules. Okay, so let's start from the left to the right. So right here, as you can see my cursor navigator, this is just going to be a preview of the picture that is most likely shown here. I'm not too certain why the navigator is there, but I believe you can hide it if you want. Yeah, so you can just click this little caret and it's going to hide it. I like to keep it sometimes because I can see like a preview of my presets, which is going to make sense here in a little bit. But I just like to keep it shown. I don't really need to see anything else on this left column regularly, so it's by default right there, and that's perfectly fine with, you know, the way I edit and the style I do. And then bottom right here, it's going to be our presets. A preset is a combination of edits for maybe color, exposure. So anything you do here, you can actually save it as what's called a preset. And the preset just simply allows you to copy and paste those settings between multiple Lightroom sessions. So as you can see, I have a couple of presets that I built myself for different sports at Crystal Lake South, because obviously that, as Media Club, that's going to be where we are shooting most often. And so this is going to be my default preset that I click for the gym, for example, in Crystal Lake South. So I'm not crazy about this one, but I think it's fine. So I create built presets. But I also have presets from the internet, which you can download and install. These are going to be presets that, you know, professional photographers use all the time. For example, Frono's Photo, he has a YouTube channel. He might not still be around if you're watching this video or making content anyways. But these are some of his presets. I'm not crazy about almost all of them. I think they're kind of terrible. But you know, you can create them. I just installed them because I got them for free. But by default, I believe you should have these presets, right? I'm actually going to hide these. You should have these presets from Adaptive Portrait and below. Those are going to be your default Lightroom ones. And to apply one, you just click the little caret here, and then you can click this one, and then you can click OK. And if I go to subject, let's just say this one. As you can see, it's doing these presets. And what's great is you can actually preview that preset on a full screen just by hovering over it. So you don't have to actually click it and apply it. You can actually hover over, and it's going to just show what it's going to look like. And obviously you can modify it. So let's say I do this preset right here. Just say this one. And I don't like the exposure on it. I need to drop the exposure. I can do that just by, so I click here, and it's going to apply the preset over here. Scrolling down, snapshots, history, collections. Again, you are not going to be using these most likely. Smart collections, that's something to do with the online service, the way it syncs between Lightroom and Lightroom Classic. Again, I don't like to do that. I think it gets confusing and it gets annoying. Let's actually see what happens if I click it. Yeah, so these are kind of pointless. Smart collections, I don't use them. I don't think that they're useful for the kind of stuff that we are going to be doing. And then down here we have our copy and paste settings. So we can actually copy and paste preset or copy and paste edit settings without saving them as a preset. So let's say I edit this picture and I like the way it looks and I want to apply it to these down here. I can click copy, select what I actually want to copy. So usually you're going to want to check all and then click copy, and then you can paste it by clicking on the picture and then paste. We're going to be doing that, but I'm just showing you the tools first, and then we can actually apply the tools. So again, in our center here, we have just the regular preview window. This is where the edits that we make over here are going to be seen. And then down here, we have just some tools for referencing. So we can reference what it looks like before and after. I don't ever really use that. I don't think you will ever need to use it either. We can also flag and reject or approve it. Again, since we've already culled through it, there's almost no reason why we'd need to reject it from the develop window. If we just don't want to edit it, I usually just skip it because it's going to be a lot less work and a lot less time. And then right here we can actually rate it as stars. So in Lightroom, a lot of the way its pictures are filtered and sorted is by what's called the star system. So this is a rating on a scale of 1 to 5 that you give your photo pretty much based on how much you like it. Let's say you take a Picasso of a picture and you really like it. You set that as a 5, so you click 5 on your keyboard or click 5 right here. That's going to start as a 5, so that's going to be your top picture, the one that you like the most. So what you'll see I do is when I finish editing a picture and I want it to get uploaded, I just set it to 5. That's my default. Once the picture is done and it's edited and I want to upload it, I just always click 5 on the keyboard. There's really no reason. You can also do 4 stars, 3 stars, 2 stars, 1 star, and then again you can just not rate it. You don't have to rate it in order to export it. It just, when you're working with hundreds of files, sometimes thousands, I find it easier to do that by rating it instead of setting it to like a specific color, which you can also do. So we can actually set our pictures as a different color. So right click here, go to set color label. You can set it to yellow. So when I'm on a different picture, you can see that this one's yellow. I'm just going to set this one to green. As you can see, you can set them to different colors. I don't have a reason for that. I don't think it's useful. But right here, I just remove the colors. Sometimes I'll use it if I'm marking it where I make 2 different export sessions. So I have, one where I want to export them for a specific person. Let's say I take a picture of this girl right here, Olivia is her name. I want to export pictures that I end up, texting her or whatever. So I'll actually probably switch that to setting it as a color label. So I know, Olivia is going to be blue. So when I go to export my pictures, I can filter it by only blue, which means Olivia. And then let's say, I want Nora to be red. So I'm actually going to set all of her pictures to be the color red. And then again, when I export that, I just click red down here for filter. and then I can export them, and I know they're just going to be of her. So that's the only time I really use color labels. There's a lot more things, and as you get more familiar with the software, you might have a reason to use it that I don't. I'm just saying, from editing thousands of pictures, this is my go-to, and this is my favorite way to do it. Okay, so now that we have it here, this is when we actually get to edit the pictures. So again, soft proofing, we don't need to worry about that. That's kind of useless. And then right here, this is going to be your edit settings. Oh, and another thing, if you don't see it, it's probably hidden. Lightroom works by hiding like toolbars. You can hide toolbars. So right here, you can see right here, there's a little arrow. If you don't see your edit settings, you just click this little arrow and it's going to pop out that window and it's going to stay there permanently. Okay, so now this is when we actually get to edit the colors. I usually sometimes use the histogram. This is just going to tell us the different color balances and if it's going to be exposed or not enough. Again, I don't use it all the time. I usually use it based on my eye, and these monitors they're color accurate enough and good enough for detecting, small errors like that. But if you really wanted to get technical, you could look at the histogram. Again, I don't use the histogram, and most likely you won't either. And then right here, this is going to be some tools that you might use. Realistically, you're going to be using these two tools here a lot. So you're going to be using the edit window, which is going to be right here, and then the crop window. So if you click crop, it's going to actually crop it. You can crop it like that. But these are going to be the two windows that you use the most. The erase or the remove tool, I don't ever use. Same with the red eye correction, because the cameras I use have that built in. And then you can also do masking. But again, if most likely you're not going to be doing any masking or any advanced stuff. And if you are, we'd probably export it or edit it in Photoshop. So this is where we can do the basic edits. Again, if you don't see it, click the caret right here. So if you ever don't see something and you just see the name of the panel, always click on the name of the panel or the caret. And then this is going to bring down the basic window. So let's say I don't see it. I just click the basic window and I'm brought here. And now this is finally when we get to do the color and we get to actually edit the pictures. I know, and almost an hour into the video, but it's just really important to understand the software before you start messing around with it. You can mess around with it and understand it eventually, but I feel like it's going to be better if you use the software beforehand and you understand the software while you're editing. So hopefully by now in this video, you are familiar with the software itself to an extent, or to a level of understanding. So if something doesn't work, you can kind of troubleshoot it, because most likely this install of Lightroom might not be the same as yours. Who knows, maybe when you're watching this, they might redesign a few things. Maybe, for example, the side panels over here, they might redesign. I'm not too sure. But now we can edit our colors. So color temperature, this is going to be adjusting your white balance. This seems fine. I'm not too concerned with it. Color balance, I can shift it here. And to shift the colors, you just click on this little slider here with your mouse, and then you can drag it, left or right. So that's hideous. And then if you ever, screw it up and you don't know where it was before, just simply double click right here. Double click on the little nub, and it's going to reset it to the default from the camera. Same with tint. I don't ever really mess with tint too much. You can. And then from this point on, this is going to be kind of hard to explain, because you just kind of almost got to drag these levers and understand what they do to make the picture look good. So exposure is a pretty standard one. This picture doesn't seem too exposed to me. I might bring it up a little bit slightly, but it looks fine. Contrast, I like to increase my contrast a little bit. I think it makes the picture look a little bit sharper, a little bit nicer. But you can do whatever you want. Highlights, I like to bring my highlights down a little bit, especially if I'm in a gym like this, because the floor is going to be super reflective and it can kind of take away from the actual stuff I want to be recording, or I actually want to be presenting and capturing. Same with shadows. Again, what I do is I grab the sliders and I just move it left to right to see, okay, this looks pretty good. And I just kind of work my way down. So I want to drop my whites a little bit. Blacks, blacks are fine. Might boost it a little bit. I'm just going to zoom in on this girl's pants. It's Cam. I want to zoom in on Cam's pants. Okay, they seem fine. Same with Mr. Busum's pants. I don't know if you're watching this, if he's still teaching. I don't know. You could be watching this in 2035. I'm not too sure. But once I get to these main things, I don't ever really mess with the texture, clarity, or dehaze. What I do mess with, though, is my saturation and vibrance. Because I'm shooting in raw pictures, it's going to not be as vibrant as if you were shooting in JPEG. But most likely you're shooting in JPEG. But I usually like to bring this up a little bit. It just kind of makes the colors boost a little bit, kind of makes it pop a little bit. So this might have been a little bit too much. I don't really like the look of this edit, but for the sake of this video, it's fine. Scrolling down, I don't ever use the tone curve, or I don't use it too often. That's for very advanced editing. Most likely, you're not going to be doing that. Color mixer. This is where we can actually shift the colors of different colors. So it's pretty cool. So let's say I have this green right here. Let's say I have these green shoes. I can actually click right here, green shoes, and I can change the hue of them. So I can actually change them to like a Arby green. If I boost it all the way, I can change it to like a Perry the Platypus green. But I can also increase the saturation of them, or I can decrease them, so I can actually make it black and white, which is pretty cool. Double click again to reset, and then luminance. This is just going to be how almost overexposed they are. So I can do that with any color. I believe I can actually pick right here with an eyedropper. No, I cannot. But if you click here, this will show all of them at once, so you don't have to navigate between each one. I don't use this too often. Sometimes I'll use it if there's a shadow and there's like a bluish tint on something in the shade. I'm talking about outdoors. If there's a shade, I might drop my blues a little bit, might drop the saturation of that, maybe change my hue slightly. But other than that, I don't use it too much. This color grading tab, I don't ever use. Detail. So if you're shooting in, so it's actually going to show a preview right here. This is going to be the center of the picture. As you can see, you can zoom in. You can actually adjust them. But this is going to be where you can do some sharpening of the picture. If it's a little soft, a little bit out of focus, you can increase the sharpening. And you can also denoise. So this is actually a brand new feature within Lightroom where it actually uses artificial intelligence, or AI, to edit the pictures. So when you want to do that, you just click denoise. You're going to check it. I don't want to do it right now. But it's going to take anywhere from 30 seconds on a pretty quick machine to 20 minutes on a machine that's not as good to actually denoise the picture. So it's actually going to remove the noise in the picture, and it works pretty well from my experience. I use it a lot if I'm shooting at night. For example, I shot a football game at the Crystal Lake Southfield, and the lights there as of last Friday, the lights there are not great. So I was shooting with my Nikon D4S, and I ended up shooting upwards of 10,000 ISO, which for a DSLR is extremely high. Not for the D4S, that one handles high ISO very nicely, but it still does have some noticeable noise. And by that, I was able to remove the noise using that denoise feature. And I can make it almost looks like I was shooting at 2000 ISO. Again, to use the denoise, as of right now, you have to have the raw file, so the .nef if you're using Nikon, or whatever the raw format of your. Sometimes it's .raw. If it's Canon, I believe it's .raw. Sony, I'm not actually sure. It might be .raw. But you have to be shooting in a raw format as of right now, as of this version of Lightroom, which is Lightroom Classic 2025. We're going to get some legacy tools down here. I don't use super resolution or raw details. Those are not important. You won't be using those. Sharpening. This is where I can actually make the picture sharper. So as you can see, it increases the tackiness of it. Or I can actually just change it a little bit. By default, it's going to sharpen at 25 points. I'm not sure what that's measured in, but it's going to sharpen at about 25. Not sure what that is rated in. Maybe pixels per inch. I'm not sure. But 25 is your default. I don't ever like to go above 50. If I have to go above 50, I'm going to denoise it first, and then I can go a little bit sharper. I can do manual noise reduction because of how great the AI denoise is. I don't use this too often. For example, I'm just going to drag it a little bit. This one, you kind of just got to drag it, kind of figure it out, see what it does for the picture, but it's going to make it look a little bit softer. So yeah, and then we're going to look at profile corrections. So profile corrections are just going to simply be a way to get rid of vignetting on the specific lens that you're using. This is a tool that sometimes I will use, but not all the time. In order to do that, I just simply click Enable Profile Corrections, and then you just click, it should automatically detect the lens you're using if it is a compatible lens with the Lightroom. So for example, I shot this on my Nikon D810 with a 24-70 2.8 by Nikkor, and as you can see, they already have a lens profile set up. And that, as you can see, is just going to bring up my corners a little bit. It's going to kind of make it a little bit more not as, fisheye, because this was at 29 millimeters, which just essentially means that it is kind of changing that fisheye distortion that we get sometimes. And then once I'm done with that, we can scroll down a little bit. Transform, I don't ever do anything with that. Lens blur and effects, don't do anything with that. Calibration, don't do anything with that. That's kind of all tools that are kind of legacy at this point. And then another thing I usually like to do is I like to crop. So crop, you can either click R on your keyboard or click this little icon right here. And then this is going to be where you can crop the image. So by dragging these corners right here, you can reposition the image as you would like. And then for the angle, you can drag the angle so you can correct it if it's a little bit sideways or anything like that. So I'm just going to drag it like that. And then once you're done, you click Enter, or you can just click Close. And then let's say this is how I want to crop it. So let's say this picture is done and I want to export it. So I'm going to mark it ready for export. And the way I personally do that is I just click 5 on my keyboard because it's close to my hand and it's close to my mouse. And that's going to mark it as 5 stars, which means that when I go to export, I'm going to filter it only by 5 stars, which is going to be the photos I can edit. So obviously that just took me about probably a couple minutes to edit each picture. And when you're working with thousands of them, you don't want to do that for every single picture. So what Lightroom has built in really nice is the copy and paste functionality, which I really like to use when I'm working with pictures that are in the same area. For example, this was in the gym of South, which means I can just simply copy and paste the settings because the light is not going to change very drastically, if at all. So now that I like the edits I have on this picture, let's say I want all my pictures to look similar to this, I can click copy. Click copy here, and then it's going to say my copy settings. I like to check all, and then I actually like to deselect crop because that's going to copy my crop settings. And if my pictures, if I had to correct my picture with crop, I don't want all of my pictures to be twisted with that angle that I used. So I like to select all of this except for crop, and then I like to click copy. And now I can go to the next picture. I can click paste. And as you can see, it pasted these settings. And because we're still copied from this picture, and I want to correct this a little bit, so I'm going to click crop right here, and I'm just going to rotate it a little bit, and then click enter. So then this one's good. I like this one. I'm going to click 5, and I'm going to move on. So I'm going to keep doing this. So I like this one. This one's a little bit overexposed, so I click paste. And this one's a little bit overexposed, so I'm going to drag back my exposure a little bit. It's a little cropped, so I'm going to click, it's a little distorted, so I'm going to click crop overlay, and then change my angle slightly. That looks pretty good to me. Click enter, and then it's going to be saved. 5 stars. And then let's say I go through all of my pictures, and now I'm finally ready to export these pictures. And the way I like to do this is a little bit different than some ways you might have been taught, especially if you're in a photography class at South. The quickest way I find to do it is I like to sort it by how many stars. So down here, this is going to be your filter bar, which we kind of worked with when we filtered based on ones that were not rejected. We're going to basically do the same thing except with stars. So I want everything above, I want 5 stars or above. So I'm going to click here. And as you can see, once I click here, it's going to hide everything except for my 5-star pictures, which are the ones that I want to export. And the way I'm going to export them is I'm going to click here, and then I'm going to go ahead and just click Shift. So I'm going to click my first one, hold Shift, and then click the last one. This is going to select all of them in my film strip. And now in order to export them, I can go to up to here, I can go to File, Export, but I can also right-click, go to Export, and then Export right here. Now it's going to bring up this window right here, which actually got brought to my next monitor, but it's going to bring up my export panel, which is where I'm actually going to select where I want to save the file, what name it's going to be, what format, and if there's going to be any kind of identifying information such as your camera model or who actually took the picture. So export location, I always like to choose folder later. I think that's just simpler the way I do it, and I always want to export to a hard drive. You can export it via email or a CD or DVD, but obviously you're not going to be doing that because you're most likely going to be uploading on SmugMug. And then we're going to go ahead and export to a folder that we choose later, and then we can go ahead and scroll down. And then I always like to rename my file. By default, I think it's the original file name. I always like to name it to a custom file sequence, which I've been using for a little while now. So I go to rename to, and then in my options here, you can do custom name X of Y. I'm not crazy about that one. I like the sequence. I think the sequence works best. The way I work and the way the things are sorted in the SmugMug page on the South website. So I'm going to click custom name sequence, and then this is where I like to change the name of the file. So what I always like to do is I always like to do my first initial, my last name, so J Wilcox right here, because my name is Jack Wilcox, and then I click the underscore. So the underscore is obviously shift, and then the button next to the 0 key on your keyboard. And then I like to name it the name of the event. So it's going to save it from the last time you export, so you always got to change it. So I'm going to do volleyball underscore, and then the date. So this was 10/19/2025. So underscore this is what I like to do. This is always how I like to edit my pictures. My name, the event name, the date, and then it's going to do a start number, which the start number is by default going to be 1. There's really no reason to change that. The extension can be lowercase or uppercase. It's not going to matter. And then down here you can see an example. So, okay, it's going to say J Wilcox underscore volleyball underscore 10/19/25-1. That's exactly how I want it, so that looks good. So we can continue to scroll down. And then here, this is another thing that you're going to change from default. By default, it's going to export it at 60% quality in JPEG format. I'm not crazy about that. I think it should be 100%. You took it on a high quality camera, so I think it should be exported at one of the highest qualities, especially if you're using it on web, because you're going to want to see the best way you can view it. So image format, click this. I always like to do it to JPEG. You can also do original if you choose, but I think JPEG is going to be your most widely accepted. You can also do PNG if you're really looking for a lossless way to export, but JPEG is going to kind of be your standard for all pictures. And then again, I accidentally hit it, so to re-show it, I just click the caret here. And then quality, I always like to change it to 100%. By default, again, it's on 60, so you can either drag the slider to 100 or click in the box here and type in 100. Color space should be by default this. It should be by default whatever your camera shot in. So for example, my camera shot in this sRGB format, which means that when I export it, it's going to export it in the same color space. If you export it into a different color space, the colors are going to look off and it's going to look a little strange. So I don't like to do that, and you should really have no reason to do that. So keep scrolling down. As you can see, this is a new feature, content credentials. I'm not sure what that is. I haven't worked with it enough, but keep scrolling down, and there's really going to be no other thing to change except for include. I always like to do either all metadata or just copyright info. You can change it to however you want, but metadata, if you're using a school camera, most likely there's going to be no custom metadata, so you shouldn't need to change any of that. So now that we've scrolled down all the way, we should have all these settings here, which I like. I'm just going to click export. And because we selected to choose folder later, this is when we can now choose that folder that we created within our hard drive. So I'm going to go to this PC, go to my external hard drive, go to my Media Club folder, go to the volleyball page, and then remember how we created that exported folder earlier? That's exactly what I want to do. I want to double click on my exported folder, and that's going to say right here, and then I'm going to select this folder, and up top here it's going to say exporting 3 files, and it's going to export them into that folder as our JPEG with our color corrections. So I'm going to wait for this to do. It should do it pretty quick. Yeah, because it's only 3 pictures. And now those pictures were exported to that folder. So I'm just going to verify that they were there. So I'm going to open up File Explorer, go to my Media Club, go to Volleyball, go to Exported, and as you can see, yes, it exported those pictures with the custom file name. And if I just double click on one, it shows just the picture. As you can see, that looks good. So now that I have this, all I can do, I've already exported them. Now I can actually close out of Lightroom. I'm done with Lightroom if I've exported all the pictures I'm ready for. To do that, just simply click the X and click yes. So now it's time to actually upload them to SmugMug. That's going to be the site that we upload all of our pictures to. And to do that, you just simply open up Chrome. You're going to want to go to your Canvas page. You're going to want to go to the Media Club Canvas page. Wait for it to load. We're going to go to the Media Club page right here. And then as you can see, under Home, there should be a SmugMug upload links copy. This might be changed. I'm not sure. This could be rearranged. But there's going to be some kind of folder which is going to have all of the some kind of link which has the upload links to all of them. So this is what the page looks like as of right now, as of 2025. And all you got to do is simply search for the event you took. So I'm going to search for where it says volleyball. So it says volleyball. I feel like I'm missing it. Right here. So you just click on volleyball. It's going to bring you to a hyperlink. Click that hyperlink, and it's going to bring you to a SmugMug upload page, which is where we're going to upload the pictures to. So in order to upload them, we're actually going to just browse computer, or you can drag them. So browse computer. I'm going to go to my Media Club folder, go to my volleyball, and then you see where we have that exported folder. This is this is where I like to rename my folder to exported - uploaded, because this tells me that I already uploaded it to SmugMug, and I don't have to wonder if I did or I didn't. So that now I'll change it to here. I click here. I select all of them by either clicking Control A or just dragging all of them, and then I click Open, and then it's going to show an upload window. And then once they've all been uploaded, it's going to say, thanks, that's blah, 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 happier pictures. That's going to be the official way that it tells you that all of your pictures have been uploaded. And again, you're not going to see them on the website right away because they have to be manually approved by somebody who has access to the other end of SmugMug, just to make sure that the pictures are not inappropriate or there is any problems with it. For example, you have 500 of the exact same picture. Somehow there might be a bug like something like that. So that is just not too quick, but that is my personal Lightroom workflow from the actually getting the pictures off of the camera all the way up until they get exported. If you have any questions, please email jackwilcox08@outlook.com or contact me with more questions. Thank you very much. I hope this helped.